Hey everyone, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Today, we're actually going to do a tutorial for once and not one of the, the design challenge videos I've been doing for a while. So yeah, it's been a few months since I've done an actual tutorial, and this one is going to be focused on creating isometric graphics in relation to photo manipulation. So we're going to take a series of existing photos, which are 100% free. I'll show you how to find your own free photos using Google Images. And we're going to cut them out and composite them into an isometric perspective. Now, if you don't know what isometrics are, it's basically a form of 3D perspective that's not a true 3D perspective, but it shows all the angles parallel with each other. So it gives you an interesting sort of perspective, essentially. All right, so we're going to use Adobe Photoshop for this. Everything's free. This is about, I think, a 30-minute tutorial, and the end result is pretty cool. You can check it out right here. All right, so make sure you subscribe here. Click on the subscribe annotation here in YouTube and check out DesignCourse.com. All right, let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here in Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm just going to use a width and height that fits well within my current resolution, which is 1280 by 720. Usually I work in a 1900 by 1200 resolution, but just for these videos it needs to be smaller so you can see everything. So I'm just going to choose 860 by 600. Now ideally, when you're working with the type of project that we're going to be covering, you want to use a much larger resolution. That way, if you ever want to get your design printed, you'll be able to do so. So I'm going to hit OK and Control-1 to get to 100%. All right, so I'm going to initially just change the background from white to a light gray. So E2, E2, E2 for the color code. All right, and then just fill it in with the bucket tool. Okay, so real quickly, I just wanted to show you something, and that is here. So images.google.com. Whenever you're working with like a photo manipulation project and you don't have photos already, you can use images.google to find images that you can freely use. So let's just say, for example, we're looking for some mountains. So we'll type in mountains, and under search tools, we have usage rights. You want to choose the one that says labeled for reuse with modification. Okay, so now all of these images you can freely use in your projects. All right, so you can see there's a ton. You could search for practically anything. And so that's usually my first go-to source. There are other ones, of course, aside from images.google, but this is the one that I've used pretty much for all of the assets we're going to be using in this project. So the first image that we're going to use is right here. Now I'm linking all of these in the description here on YouTube so you can use the same files. Okay, so looking at this, we're creating an isometric photo manipulation, and this is a good angle because we're looking, you can tell the camera is positioned pretty high up and looking down, and that's going to work for our perspective. So we're going to right click and copy image here in Chrome. I believe Firefox you can do the same thing. Otherwise, if not, you can just drag the image to your desktop and open it in Photoshop that way. All right, so let's go here in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Control-N. Create a new document, obviously presets clipboard, which is what we have copied, and that is the resolution of the mountain graphic. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that here for now. Now, when we're talking about isometrics, basically you're working with 30-degree angle lines, this way and this way. Now, I'm also going to link in the description in the YouTube here a pattern for Photoshop, and it's an isometric pattern that you can use. So just to show you, I'm going to take the rectangle tool, come out to the very edge just beyond, hold Alt and drag out while left clicking a rectangle, and I'm going to double click it. It's going to bring up the layer styles, and we're going to click on pattern overlay. In the pattern preset, I'm going to choose this right here, which is what I'm going to link, and you can go ahead and open that up as well in Photoshop. If you don't know how to do that, go ahead and just Google, how to use patterns or whatever and get them working. So I'm going to take down the opacity quite a bit, roughly right around here, 11%, and hit OK. All right, so if I zoom up, these are basically 30-degree angled lines. I think they are, at least. Let me check and make sure. So if we take this line tool Actually, this is 27.2. I think because this is based on a pixel art isometric. Yeah, this is the 2:1 ratio where there's 2 pixels and then up 1. That's fine. We can still use this, and it will still look like an isometric photo manipulation sort of thing. So what we'll do is create, with the line tool, basically a square that goes and adheres to these lines. So let me zoom out again, I want to make sure we get this big enough. So you don't have to be exactly 100% perfect on this. So I'm just going to left click on one of these lines. I will say a size that is roughly, I think right here would be pretty good. All right, and then we'll come back down. And we want to stay on the same line, obviously. And right here. And we can't see the other one because I think the color is currently white. So that's kind of the issue. Actually, let me go ahead and change that real quick. So if you take the direct selection tool, we can change the fill here to black. Now we can see them. Do it for the other one. Black. Okay. And then what we could do is I'll take both of these and just hit Control Shift D, or you can right click and hit duplicate layer, and then hit Control T, right click and flip horizontal. So the move tool, move this over so that these connect. All right, so that's going to be the angle that we're looking down on this isometric graphic. So now we have all 4 of these. What we can do is just hit Control E, and that will merge them onto a single path there. Okay, so now that we have this guide of sorts to use, let's go back here, and we're going to use the pen tool in path mode. So take the pen tool and make sure path is selected, and kind of just outline this very roughly. Just coming around here, coming around here. I'm doing it very quickly, as you can see. And once you connect it back to the original anchor point, right click, make selection, and hit OK. Make sure anti-alias is turned on, and Control C to copy. Okay, so now let's paste that on top. So you can see it's fairly larger. Hit Control T, and we're going to scale this down. All right, so we want it to overlap, and we can take the opacity just to see, where we want this thing to kind of sit. I think right around here would be pretty good. Yeah, right there. So once you get situated right around there, go ahead and take the move tool, hit apply. All right, so now what we want to do is we're going to take this shape 2, which is the black lines right here, Control left click right here. And what that'll do is create an outline of the shape that we created. Now, if we switch back to layer 1 with the mountains and we hit delete, we can see it's going to delete. 1 second. Oh, that's my fault. The issue was that when I hit Control left click, it's only going to select the individual lines right there. So let me zoom out real quick. Edit, step forward. What I'm just going to do is right click and hit rasterize layer. And it showed up off screen. It's on that menu when you right click it though. And now we can, with the magic wand tool, make sure anti-alias is turned on and contiguous is turned on as well. So we select everything on the outside. Okay, so if we go back to layer 1 and we hit delete, now we can delete everything there. Now the issue with that is though, it's going to cut off part of this mountain that I kind of wanted to show beyond this line right here. So if I back up by hitting Control Alt and Z and I zoom up here, we can see this outline of this mountain right here. So what we can do is take the lasso tool, make sure anti-aliasing is turned on. We're going to hold Alt, and that will subtract from the selection outside. Right around there, I think. Now we can go ahead, switch to layer 1 and hit delete. And that's going to leave that edge there. So we can go back to 100% now and hit Control 1. And this is what we have going so far. So I can get rid of the pattern overlay right here. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Of course, we're going to make some color corrections to it though. I'll go ahead and do that now. So with layer 1 selected, we're going to go to Window Adjustments to bring up the adjustment layers. And what we want to do is I'm going to stick that right there on this bar. And what we're going to do is just adjust a couple things. I think brightness and contrast. And make sure you click this button to make sure it only affects this layer. And we'll turn up the brightness a little bit and maybe the contrast. And we may come back to this adjustment layer based on when we add the other graphics here. That's pretty good. So now let's go ahead and move on to the second resource that we have. And that's going to be adding kind of like a rocky layer underneath it. So what we'll do is come here. Let me get my notepad out because I have all of my references there. Oh, it's already up here. And this is another one I found in Google Images. It just kind of has it in it like a rocky face right here that we're going to use. So I'm going to right click, copy image, come down here. And before, I'm going to just go to Control N, paste that in real quick and come back here. And what I want to do is turn this back on and we're just going to use the move tool and drag it down. It depends on how thick you want it to be. I think mine, maybe right around there would be pretty good. All right, so what we want to do is make this so that we can take our line tool, and I think what I'll do is change it from shape mode to pixels, and I'm going to connect it straight up here by holding shift and left clicking like that, and another one in the middle. Actually, that wasn't quite in the middle. There we go. Right there. And then I'm going to do another one. Turn anti-aliasing on. That will connect those together like that. So now if we select this, I also want to get rid of this portion right here. So I'm just taking the lasso tool and deleting it. So now I could just select, I'm not sure if these got, oh, I think I deleted that by accident, this portion right here. Take that lasso tool, Alt, and right there to deselect. Now if I hit delete, hopefully I can select just this portion. Okay, good. All right, so now we'll come back over here and we'll use the pen tool here, make sure it's in shape mode again. And I'm just going to take a real quick chunk of this whole rock face coming up around. I don't want the sky or anything. Just like that. So right click, make selection, hit OK, and Control C to copy. Now with this selected still, I'm going to Control 1, and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste Special, Paste Into. All right, so now we have to manipulate this a little bit. Control T, and we'll scale this down. Holding Shift and Alt, right click, we'll choose Skew. We'll have to skew it quite a bit, and we want it to get on basically the same angle. So if we see the bottom of this, we want this to match as well. And you can move it based on, you know, what you want it to look like. You know, if you get a certain area that's the sediment looks correct, well then good. We can also scale it down even more. Maybe right around there is good. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so now we can hide this and we can see what this looks like so far. The light source, of course, is going to be coming from this way because it looks like on the mountain, that's where the light source is coming from. The shadow's back here, light's over here. So this is going to be a little bit darker, but first, what I want to do is go ahead and do the other one over here as well. So to do that, I'm going to take this shape too. I'm going to hit Control T, right click, and flip horizontal select Move Tool, hit Apply. That way we have this over here and we can just quickly select that portion. Now we'll go ahead and edit and paste special and paste into. So we'll have to do the same thing over here, but we want to make this so they don't look the same, obviously. So we'll make some adjustments. So right click after hitting Control T and we'll choose Skew. Right click and scale it. You'll have to go back and forth a few times between skew and such. All right, right around there looks good. Okay, so let me hide that black area right there. And so let's go switch over here. So if I just Control left click, it'll select us on that layer. And we'll bring out the adjustments here and we'll choose brightness and contrast. Click this down button right there to make sure it only applies on that layer and take the brightness down quite a bit. Maybe just right around there will be pretty good. Okay. We could also tamper around with this one as well. Let's try hue saturation. Make sure it only affects that layer. Just take the saturation down. It was a little bit too much when compared with up here. We'll do the same thing on this one as well. So we'll go ahead and add a hue and saturation. Bring that down a bit, like right around there. So like -48. All right, so far so good. We're making progress here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next asset. And this is going to be a hot air balloon. So I'm going to right click and copy this. Remember, these are all in the description. Control N, hit enter, Control V to paste. So I thought it'd be cool just to add like some sort of floating object, something colorful to break up the terrain. And we'll go ahead and cut this out with the pen tool. So I'm just going to go up and around again. And you don't have to be absolutely perfect. Just try to stay inside very slightly in the balloon. Otherwise you'll get the outside and it may not look well. Right click, make selection once you're done. Control C to copy. And we'll paste. Control T and Shift and Alt and scale that thing down. I think maybe we'll put it right here, roughly right around that size. Hit OK. All right, so we need to make some adjustments with this one as well. So we'll take the adjustment layer, brightness and contrast, bring up the brightness a little bit, maybe take down the contrast. And I'm going to create another layer, Control Shift and N to create a new layer. And it's also going to be a clipping mask. And I'm going to use the brush tool. And I'm going to zoom up. Because right now, looking at this, there's no definitive light source. There's no light direction from it. So we're going to fix that. I'm going to take down, right now you can't see the size that I'm adjusting, but I'm using roughly 23 for the size of a feathered brush, a hardness of 0. And I'm going to take this and make this white. And just go like this. And maybe not that much. Maybe like that. And then I'm going to change the layer blend mode, clicking over here. And using my mouse, my keyboard down arrow key to sort through these. I think overlay might be a good option. I'm going to take that and duplicate it again. Whenever you duplicate a layer mask and there's another layer mask on top of it, it just screws this one up and makes it not a layer mask. So just right click and create layer mask again. All right, so now it looks like there's more of a light source. So if I hid these two layers, you can see it's real dark. Now it's brighter. So that's just a quick adjustment you can make. All right, so now that we have that going, let's go ahead and also take a look at another image. So these are birds here that we can kind of just use the clone stamp tool to put in. So if I get a Control N, hit enter, paste, we're going to use what's called the magic background or the magic eraser tool. If you just click once, it's going to erase all of the background. So then we could take everything like this Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste. Now we have all these birds. I'm going to hit Control T, Shift and Alt, left click, and scale down. So now we have all of these birds right here. I'm just going to make it roughly around that size and select Move Tool, hit Apply. Now this obviously doesn't look, anything like what we would want. So what we're going to do is just move this off, and we're going to use what's called the Clone Stamp tool. And we want a hardness of 100%, and the size we're going to need to come down a little bit. I'll say 24. And then I'm just going to Alt left click right around there, and we can start just scattering birds around by left clicking. So maybe we'll have a couple over here. And you could hold down the left click as well, just to add more if you wish. Alt left click over here. Yeah. You don't want to overdo it too much. Maybe like that. Just something like that. Now we can take these and delete these over here. Okay, so we're making progress. Another thing we could do real quickly is add, just for the hell of it, I don't even know why you do this, the Washington Monument. I want to show you guys just enough different photo manipulation techniques. I'm not sure why we would add it here, but I'm going to because I can. So we're going to paste that in here, and we're going to cut this thing out. So you have to determine, how much of this do you want to cut out around? I think just this portion here. Otherwise, the grass may not blend very well in with the existing photo or the landscape that we have going. So I'm going to use the pen tool again. Come up. You want to go just inside. Start right there. We don't want to include the shadow as well. We're going to create our own shadow for that. And I'm just coming around this circular area like that. Right click, make selection, hit OK, Control C, and Control V to paste. Now it's kind of leaning over, so we'll have to fix that. Hit Control T, Shift and Alt, and scale this down. You're right around there. Let's correct it so it's, I'm going to hold Alt and my scroll wheel to zoom up. And so that's a little bit standing up more straight. Maybe make it a little bit taller. And right around there. Select Move Tool and Apply. Okay, so now we need to make some adjustments to this specifically. What we'll do is, right now the light source from this is coming from this way. You can see it's darker over here. So what we can do is hit Control T, right click, flip horizontal. So now the light source is coming from this way. What we also want to do is, I think we want to darken a little bit. So we'll use the adjustment layers. We'll take brightness and contrast. Yeah, like that. That's a little bit better. We could see it as well, a little bit better as well. And let's go ahead and add our own shadow that's casting off from this. So what we'll do is use the pen tool in shape mode this time. And we'll start just underneath that layer 7 is this monument thing right here. And so I'll click right around here. Now we have to look at, oops, one second. We have to look at this angle of this shadow and try to mimic it as much as possible. So we'll come back here, maybe right here and here. Now, if you didn't place this correctly, you can use the direct selection tool right here. Maybe just like that. Make it black and take the opacity down, like around 39%. And we want to move this actually on top. There we go. So Control 1, now it looks like there's a shadow coming off this way. Now we could do the same thing coming off just down here as well to make it even a little bit more of a, give it more of a 3D effect. So we'll take the pen tool. We'll start it just around where this ends, right around here, I would say. Oops, let me connect these two up. So it creates a new layer. There we go. And we'll just come off like this or something. And right down there. Take the opacity down. Okay. All right, so a couple other things I wanted to do. We can see right here where this water kind of meets the end, but then there's just rocky stuff here. I mean, that's fine, but I like to show you how you can make this kind of, make this portion water as well. So if we go ahead and take our layers, first, you have to be pretty much satisfied with everything you have before you continue on to this next portion, because I'm going to take everything and just merge them down, all the layers, or at least just this one and the two side sentiment layers. So if I take these, you find this one and this one. All right, so if I take these and hit Control E, that will merge those. And then we'll take this as well and Control E and merge those. So now they're all on their own layer. If I zoom up, I can take the, let's see here, the clone stamp tool. And we're going to make a size more like, let's see, 15 still too big. Try 9. 9 will work. And we'll also make sure the hardness is 100%. So what we're going to do with this layer selected is Alt left click right around there and then click right there. Do it again, Alt left click over here. And I'm just coming down, Alt left clicking, so that I get all the way near the bottom. We want to turn this little icon on here, because watch, if we don't have that on, it'll come out outside of it. But if we turn it on, you'll see it won't. So that's just kind of like a nifty little trick there. I'm not sure what that thing is there. You don't want to look like it's repeating too much. Then we're going to add a new shape layer on top of it, starting right around here to here. And we'll kind of just follow this edge. We're going to make this a real dark, well, let's go ahead and get this blue right here and make it darker. And then we'll select Move Tool, change the layer blend mode. Just click on this twice, use your down arrow on your keyboard, just so it's a little bit darker like that, just to separate that view. Okay. Let's also add a shadow casting off of this whole portion right here. So let's go ahead and create a new layer, Control-Shift-N, hit Enter, just at the bottom. We'll go ahead and take the pen tool with shape selected and start right here at the bottom, and we'll come up maybe right around here, out here, out here, and here. We'll go ahead, double click this, just make it black, take the opacity down a lot. We're going to right click and rasterize the layer. We're going to take the eraser tool, hardness of 0, and 170 pixels will work pretty well. And just blur off or get rid of the edge there. And I may get rid of that edge as well. All right, roughly just like that. Now to give us a simulation, more of a, I would say, like a light source over here, we can go ahead and create a new layer near the bottom. And we'll take the gradient tool, and we could do a few things. So we have, make sure you have this one selected here, which is foreground color to transparent, and make it a little bit brighter over here. And you can exaggerate that like even more if you take this rectangle 1 and change the color maybe just a tad bit darker right there. And if you want to give it some warmth, like a sun, let's go ahead and create a new layer on top of that. Take the gradient tool, the color picker, maybe somewhere right around here. And that gives it a little bit of, well, let me do that maybe a little bit more. Yeah, just a little bit more like that, so we have a little bit of yellow in there. And then if we take everything here, So we can see all these layers. What we could do, let me see here. Let's turn off that. Control E. Yeah, we've merged everything down. Now, before you do that, if you want to back up, you could take everything, hit Control G to group them, and then duplicate them. Right-click, hit Duplicate Layer, or use a shortcut like I am. And then hit Control E, and then you can hide this one. That way, if you ever need to go back and like edit something specific, you can do so. And then we'll take an adjustment later with the photo filter and just click it down so it only affects this layer right here. And you can experiment with maybe just adding some lightness to it. So you have a lot of different warming filters that you can experiment with. If this is too much, you may want to take it down just a bit. But you can see if you hide the adjustment layer, what happens. I personally think it maybe might be better without it, or if you're going to use it, maybe only 10%. All right, and that is it. We are at 30 minutes. So yeah, it didn't take too long, but as you can see, you can really just play around with these things and make some cool sort of photo manipulations in the isometric style. Oh, and real quickly, just so I could show you, because I forgot this part. If we zoom up here, if you wanted to add like more mountains that kind of just stick out, you could do that with the clone stamp tool. Make sure your hardness is 100%. Maybe I'll just take right here, for example. If I take this ridge, Alt left click, and then start up here and just come down, we've now just created our own little mountainous area, and it looks completely realistic. So yeah, you could do that as well to really deform different parts of the landscape. All right, so that is it. Hopefully you learned a lot. Make sure you check out designcourse.com. Also subscribe here on YouTube, and also check out the Facebook page and give us a like there. All right, I'll see you later. Goodbye.